Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the free Network Configuration Manager training. This is the second part, and in today's session, we'll be talking about Configlets, compliance, RBAC, and reports. I hope you all can hear me and see the presentation. Please confirm by commenting on the chat panel. Once we get a few confirmations, we can proceed with the training. So, my name is Renuka Govindarajan. I will be your trainer for today's session. So let me tell you the agenda for today's session. In today's session, we'll be talking about Configlets and its uses. We'll see how to be compliant with industry standards like HIPAA, SOX, PCI, etc. We'll also see how to control your infrastructure by role-based access control. We'll see how to schedule different configuration tasks. Then we'll see about configuration search and how to search for a particular string from configurations. Then we'll talk about reports and how reports will be useful for a better network management. And then we'll be talking about integrations. Currently, we are using NCM bill number 12.4. If you are not on the same bill, kindly upgrade to the latest version. Now let's start our session with Configlets. What are Configlets? Configlets are executable script templates, and when they are applied to devices, they will execute the commands in a sequence. What are Configlets used for? Configlets are used to fix faulty devices in your network. Malfunctioning devices can be fixed from within NCM, and a telnet or a putty is not required. You can also execute changes and other network operations in the devices. In NCM, we have default commands for several operations. You can also add a configlet based on your requirements. Now, let me tell you how to add a configlet. You can add a configlet using three modes: file transfer mode, script execution mode, and advanced script execution mode. So these modes are based on how the commands will be executed in the device. So let's start with the script execution mode first. Script execution mode is where you push a configlet to multiple devices at one go in a sequence. This mode is especially useful if you want to enable or disable SNMP or upload/download firmware image. So, to identify commands, you can use this. So to identify commands, you can see that on the LHS, you have the commands that will be executed manually on the telnet or a putty. And on the right-hand side, you can see the commands that will be present in a configlet. So if you are creating commands using script execution mode, this is how you will identify which command should be present where in the configlet. So the commands you entered in the telnet will be the same as that which will be executed in a configlet. Now let me tell you an example for a script execution mode. This is the UI of Network Configuration Manager. And to access Configlet, go to Settings, click on Configlets. Here you can see a lot of configlets created by us. And if you want to add a configlet from scratch, click on Add, give the configlet name, choose the execution mode such as script execution or advanced script execution or file transfer. You should be giving the configlet content in the configlet content box and click on Save. Once you save it, you can execute it. Now let me show you an example for script execution mode first. So This is an example for script execution mode, as you can see. And we are gonna change the password for Cisco devices using the script execution mode. So the configlet command for this is this, which will be present in the configlet content box. And you can enable this option if you wish to perform configuration backup before and after template execution. So once you specify all this, click on Save. Now, when it is done, you just have to click the Execute Configlet icon to execute it. So click on Execute Configlet, select the password, the new password which you want for all the Cisco devices, and then you can associate this configlet to many devices, or you can select device groups. So once you've chosen all that, click on Execute. So this configlet will be pushed to all the devices once you give the execute option. So this is about script execution mode. Now let us move on to advanced script execution mode. Advanced script execution mode is just a higher version of script execution mode, and this can be used in the following scenarios. If the command prompts a user confirmation, if the prompt changes after a command execution, when the command execution takes more time, you may need to extend the timeout for a particular command. So in such cases, you can use the advanced script execution mode. Also, sometimes while executing commands, you might encounter an error in the middle. So at that time, you might want to stop the command execution. And in that case, you can use the advanced script execution mode. Also, if you wish to change an execution flow based on the device response, you can use the advanced script execution mode. So let me show this to you in our UI. So for a command execution mode, I'll take an example of backing up Cisco router image. So here you can see that it requires a user prompt. So this is where the configlet command will be present. And once you're sure of the command, you can click on Save. So like executing script execution mode, you just have to click the Execute Configlet option, provide all the inputs, and associate it to devices. In the same manner, you can also choose device groups. The device groups are nothing but a group of devices grouped into one. So there are different groups like HP group, Cisco router group, etc. So once you associate it, the configlet can be pushed to the necessary device groups or devices. Once it's done, click on Execute. So let us move on to file transfer mode. File transfer mode can be very useful if you wish to push a configlet to multiple devices at one go. So this is extremely beneficial if you have a configuration file and if you wish to push it to multiple devices. So it will save you time and effort since you don't have to go into every device and then upload the configuration file. You can use the file transfer mode and get it done in seconds. So let me show this to you. So I'm searching for an example using you can search for it by typing it on the template type. Here's an example. And so this is where the configuration file has been uploaded. Here you can see, and then it's a file transfer mode, and all you have to do is save it. And once you're done saving, you can execute it right away by allocating devices. You can choose any number of devices and device groups, and then you can execute it. So once you execute it, you can see what happened during the execution by going to the execution history. Here you can see all the executions of configlets which has happened in the past. You can drill down to see in detail about what exactly happened during the execution. So you will get the detailed version of configlet execution. You can also export this to a PDF format. So another thing which I wanted to talk about configlet is sometimes there will be certain devices which will require configlets or execution of configlets regularly. In that case, you don't have to come here every time to carry that out. Instead, you can just add it to the snapshot page of that particular device. So whichever configlet you wish to add, you just have to choose them and click on Add to Snapshot option. So you can specify the vendor or the device template name and give the Add to Snapshot option. Also, if you wish to delete a particular configlet, you just have to give the delete icon. Another way of adding configlets to the snapshot page is by going to Settings, Device Management, and Device Templates. Device templates are nothing but they carry vendor-specific configuration commands. So for this particular device template, Cisco iOS router, there will be a lot of Cisco devices associated along with its commands. So now I'm saying that I want to add the configlets to all the devices which come under the particular device template Cisco iOS router. All I have to do is click on Snapshot Configlets and give the Add to Snapshot option. Once it's done, you can see that all the devices which come under Cisco iOS router will contain these configlets in its snapshot page. Now let me show this to you. Go to the inventory, click on a Cisco device. So here it's a Cisco router, and I'm going to the snapshot page of the Cisco router. So all I have to do is click on the 3 lines icon and give configlet actions. Here you can see all the configlets which are associated, and you can execute it directly by clicking on the required configlet. So let me go back to device management. And I want to show you some other thing which will be very useful, especially if you want to export flows to a network bandwidth monitoring solution like a NetFlow analyzer. So directly you can export flow from NCM to a bandwidth monitoring tool. All you have to do is give the flow export configlet and choose the add flow configlet option. So another thing is you can also send syslog messages to a firewall analyzing device like a firewall analyzer by giving the Cisco configlet option. And here you can give the configlet content and give save option. So let me show this to you. Go to the inventory, click on the device, click the 3 dots and give the explode flow option. So here you can see the different flows and the respective confliglets for those flows. So these are the configlet commands for the different flows. Now all you have to do is click apply. By doing so, you can export flow to a bandwidth monitoring solution. So that's all about configlets. I hope you found it useful. So let's move on to compliance. So why is compliance important? So if you stay compliant to industry standards, then you can be vulnerable free. So by staying compliant to industry standards, you can also avoid legal issues. Network Configuration Manager offers default compliance policies such as Cisco iOS policy, HIPAA compliance policy, SOX compliance policy, and PCI. So let me show the default compliance policies in the UI. Click on compliance. And here you can see the default policies such as Cisco iOS policy, HIPAA compliance policy, etc. So now I want to see how many devices are compliant in my network and how many devices are not. So for that, all I have to do is click on this. Here I can see the number of devices which are compliant and number of devices which have faced a rule violation. I can get deeper insight into it by clicking on it and by viewing what exactly happened and if the violated rules are critical, major, or in warning. So this is how I can ensure that all the devices in my network is compliant. Other than the default compliance policies, NCM also allows you to create compliance policies by custom. So how do you create custom policies? All you have to do is create custom rules, group those rules into rule groups, and then you can group those rule groups into policies. So to create a custom rule, you can either clone an existing rule or add a rule from scratch. When you add a rule, you have to specify the criteria such as simple criteria, advanced criteria, and advanced custom criteria. These criteria are based on how the condition is set for each of these rules. So I will talk to you about all these criteria in detail. So let me talk about simple criteria first. Simple criteria is used when you only have a condition to define whether a particular rule should have or shouldn't have a particular string or an exact set. You can also determine how many number of times a particular string can be present in a configuration file. For example, so I don't want these lines, which is SNMP server community public RO and SNMP server community private RW, to be present in my configuration file. So I don't want these two lines. So all I have to do is specify the simple criteria and specify these two lines. So it will be better if I show this to you in the UI. So go to compliance, click on rules. Here I will show you an example for the simple criteria. But before that, if you wish to add a rule from scratch, all you have to do is click the plus symbol. Here you can specify which criteria you want to use, and then the particular commands here. So let me show you an example for simple criteria. I'm taking this example for simple criteria, where I'm specifying that this configuration file on which this compliance is applied should not contain any of these lines. So if I apply the compliance rule to the configuration file, NCM will check if these two lines are present in that configuration file. If these two lines are present in the configuration file, then it shows a rule violation. If these two lines are not present in a configuration file, then the rule will not be violated and you can understand that your device is compliant. So once you specify this, click on next. Here, you can see the rule group, rule name, and you can specify the description as well. You can also provide the violation severity such as critical, major, or warning. And then you can associate a remediation configlet to this. So before that, let me tell you what a remediation configlet is. So let's say an NCM is doing a compliance check and a lot of devices are not compliant and a rule is violated when a network administrator is not present. So in that case, anybody from your infrastructure, any operator, can just directly execute the remediation configlet, and if a remediation configlet is executed, then the rule will not be violated. So once you give a remediation configlet, click on save. So let me show you the remediation configlet. So here I'm going to show you the remediation configlet. So the remediation template for this particular rule is SNMP disable. So let's say if this particular rule is in violation, now it's in compliance, so it's not necessary, but let's say that it is violated. So in that case, all you have to do is click on the remediation template and execute it. So that is all about simple criteria. Let us move on to advanced criteria. Advanced criteria provides you an option of having more conditions. This is very useful when you want to search for a string that has a variable. So for searching for this variable, you can use a regular expression. Here's one such example where you're going to search if the enable password is given as secret or not. Also, you can choose the number of times this string should be present in the configuration file. So let's go to the UI. Now click on compliance rules, and let me show you an example for advanced criteria. Let's see. You can search for an advanced criteria like this. So yes, so here's an example for advanced criteria, and you have to specify the conditions such as should contain or should not contain. Also, you give the pattern as enable secret followed by a regular expression. So the condition has been set that the enable secret should be configured in the configuration file. So you can also give the number of times this particular scenario should appear in the configuration file. So I'm just choosing any and then click on next. Also, another thing is you can add more than one condition. You can use the and or conditions, and it is not required here, so I'm just going to click on next. Here you can give the violation severity as critical, major, or warning. You can also associate a remediation configlet, and once that is done, you can click on save. So when this particular compliance rule is applied to devices, the NCM will check if the enable secret is configured or not using the regular expressions. Also, check out the regular expression commands using our help document. Here you can get a lot of regular expression commands which will be useful while you're executing compliance rules. Let us move on to advanced custom criteria. Advanced custom criteria is used when you want only to check the certain parts of configuration file of a network device. A good example is when you want to check the interfaces of a particular router. So typically, a router will have several interfaces in it, and the speed of the router has to be set for it to work well. If the speed is not set, then it is going to be fluctuating. For this reason, you can define certain blocks in a configuration file. So when NCM runs a compliance check, it will check only the blocks that are defined. For example, here we can say, let's identify the block start as interface and the block end as exclamatory. So usually in a configuration file, an interface starts with the word interface and ends with an exclamatory. So we have defined in NCM that if a block starts with interface and ends with exclamatory, then consider that block for your compliance check. In Network Configuration Manager, we have something called as additional block criteria, where let's say certain interfaces in the router will be shut down. So in that case, you don't have to waste time checking the interfaces which have shut down in it. So in that case, all you have to do is give the additional criteria as shutdown. So while performing a compliance check, NCM will automatically ignore all the interfaces which are shut down. So let me show you an example for advanced block criteria. So this is an example for advanced custom criteria. Here we are providing the configuration block start as interface, configuration block end as exclamatory. We are also giving the additional block criteria as should not contain the word shutdown. So you can also give more than one condition and click on next. Here you can give the name and the description, violation severity, the remediation configlet, and click on save. So now we saw everything about all the compliance criteria. Now let me tell you how to execute compliance. So all you have to do is group the rules into a rule group. So for doing that, all you have to do is to choose the rules which you want to group into rule groups and click on the plus symbol, and here are available rules present. So all you have to do is choose the rules and associate it into the rule group. You can give the rule group name and description and click on save. So once that is done, a rule group will be created. Likewise, you can create more than one rule group and club these rule groups into policies. For that, click on policies and click the plus symbol. Provide a policy name, a description, and you can also give a policy violation criteria such as any rule in this policy is violated or only if a critical or a major rule is violated. So I'm giving any rule in this policy is violated. So once that is done, you can associate rule groups to this policy. Once that is done, click on next. Choose the device groups to which you want to push this policy or the devices on which you want to run the compliance check. And once you associate the devices, all you have to do is click on save. So Network Configuration Manager will automatically apply the compliance rules to all the devices which were selected, and it will give a proper statistics about how many devices are compliant and how many devices are in violation. So that being said, let us move on to compliance reports. Compliance reports are very useful since you can get a clear idea in detail about everything that is happening in your network environment with respect to compliance. So for that, all you have to do is click on reports, choose compliance report. Here you can see the number of devices which are compliant, the number of devices in which the compliance data is not available, and for the devices which are in violation. So here you can further drill down to see the number of devices and the rules which are applied to those devices and the number of rules which are violated. So here you can see in detail about for this particular device how many rules are violated and how many rules are not violated. And you can further drill down to see exactly what the rule is, and this will help you get a better understanding of all the rules and compliance status in your environment. So that is all about compliance. Let us move on to role-based access control, which is one of the most important features of Network Configuration Manager. This is a very interesting feature because if you have an infrastructure, you will have several network admins and you will have only a set of scope defined to each of these admins. Let's say you have an operator in your network and this operator tries to make a change in a network device which is very critical for the infrastructure. Then network admin will receive a notification about the changes and he can choose to approve or reject this particular change. And once the approval or rejection is made, the operator will receive a notification whether the change is made, whether the change he made is approved or not. So this role-based access control is extremely useful, especially when you don't want unnecessary changes to be made to your environment. So unless an admin approves the change will not get the change will not be made. The change will not get uploaded. So let me. So also another important thing is this particular act control will give you a complete control on who is making what kind of changes in your environment. And in NCM, you can have RBAC in two ways. One is with user management, in which you give the scope to the user, and this is done using local AD and radius authentications. You can also have approval notification in real time. So instantly you will get a notification if a user tries to make a change and upload it. So let me show this to you, the UI. So I'm going to the inventory. And yes, so go to settings, click on user management. Here you can see all the users in your network infrastructure. You can delete a user if necessary. How do you add a user? You can add a user by clicking on add user option. Here you have to provide what role the particular user is going to undertake, whether he's an admin or an operator, and the user type, the name of the user, also the phone number if it is required. You can give the password, also the email ID. that is done, click on next. Here you can give the scope to the users. So if the user is an expert of Cisco devices, you can associate Cisco devices to to this particular user. So I'm associating all devices to this user and I'm clicking on save. So you can see that user has been successfully added. So now let me log in as an operator and see how this works. So I'm going to log in as an operator. So here I've given the credentials and I'm logging in as an operator. Previously, I was an administrator, and that is why I was able to add users to my environment. So once I'm done logging in as an operator, I'm going to try to make a change in a particular device. So I'm selecting this device and I'm going to the snapshot page of this particular device. Here, I want to make a change. So I'm giving the draft name as Ray 17 annotation, and then I'm just making a small change where I'm changing the date to June 4th. So once that is done, I'm going to give the save and upload option. So it is successfully saved and I'm going to try to upload it. So here I am getting a message saying the upload request has been sent to the administrator. So I'm going to go to the administrator tab. So I'm in the administrator tab. I'm going to see if I received a notification. And yes, I received a notification from Ray 17 who tried to upload a draft. Clicking on it, I'm going to see what exactly the change is. So here, yeah. Now I can see that the change made by him is June 4th. So I don't want this particular change to be made in my infrastructure. So what I'm going to do is reject it. I can also give a comment as to why I'm rejecting it. So the user will know the reason. Once I give it, all I have to do is click on reject. So this rejected message will be sent to the operator. So let me go to the operator and check if I got a notification from the administrator. Yes, I did. And the admin has rejected your request. So which means my change has not been accepted by the administrator. So yeah. So this is all about role-based access control. Now let us move on to tools. Network Configuration Manager provides instance troubleshooting methods by providing us with tools such as terminal, ping, address monitoring, network monitoring, and SNMP tools which help you to plot SNMP graph based on IP address and subject ID. So let me show this to you. Go to the tools option. Here you can see the terminal. So using terminal, you can see and execute commands for SSH and telnet. You can also add custom commands, configuration commands, and execute them for both SSH and telnet. Now, ping tools are extremely useful if you want to see if a device is reachable or not. So for that, all you have to do is provide the IP address and give the ping option. So this is the other tool. The other tool is address monitoring. So you can use address monitoring to resolve MAC and DNS. And then we have network monitoring tool. This is extremely useful if you wish to see if a group of devices are reachable. That is, group of devices falling under a particular IP range is reachable. So for that, you will have to provide the starting IP, the ending IP, and give the scan option. And then we have other tools like SNMP tools, Cisco tools, etc. And SNMP tools help you plot SNMP graph using the sysobject ID, and the host name. We also have other tools for forwarding, syslog, sysviewer, workflow, and Cisco tools for managing Cisco devices. So that's all about tools, and you can use these tools if you want to instantly check if a device is available or not, or for other troubleshooting purposes. So that being said, let us move on to schedules. As the name suggests, with schedules you can schedule different configuration tasks such as configuration backup, generation of reports, compliance check, configlets execution, startup running configuration sync, PCI review, etc. So going to the UI, I'm gonna go to the settings, click on schedule option. Now here I'm on the schedule tab. So all I'm gonna do is click on add. I'm gonna add a new schedule. So you can provide the schedule name and the type of schedule. If you want a backup configuration, you can provide the configuration backup option. If you want to generate reports, you can give the report generation option. And if you wish to carry out compliance check at a particular time, you can give the compliance check. And if you want to push configlets to multiple devices at a particular time, you give the configlets option. You can sync startup and running configurations using sync configuration, and you can also provide a schedule time for it. You can carry out the PCI review scheduling as well. So now I'm going to schedule configuration backup. For configuration backup, you can get notifications if there is a backup failure during this process, or if you want to exclude configuration difference from notification, or if you want to receive notification if there is a change in the configuration. Once that is done, you have to associate devices or device groups, so which can be done easily. So in these devices, this particular backup operation will take place at the scheduled time. So you can provide an email notification by which you will get the notifications about the schedule, and you can give the scheduled time. So at this particular time, your schedule operation will begin. So you can also delete schedules if you don't want it. Also, you can see the status of the schedule. And if you want to execute it instantly, all you have to do is give the execute now option. So that's all about schedules. It's quite easy. So let's move on to configuration search. Let me tell you all about configuration search. In Network Configuration Manager, we have a feature where we can search for a particular string in the entire configuration. So when you search for a string, NCM will show you results from anywhere in a configuration file. This will be useful when there is an issue in your network and you want to quickly identify what that issue is. Network Configuration Manager also provides advanced configuration search in NCM, by which you can further drill down to deeper search mechanisms. So let me go there. Go to the inventory and click on the configuration search icon. Here you can see the configuration search icon, and I am going to use this configuration search to search if the word public is present anywhere. Click on search. So here you can see that the word public is present in these configurations. So it will keep searching, and you can just go and see where exactly that word is present. So the word public is present in line number 287 and line number 295 in this particular configuration, 192.168.50.131. So you get a clear idea about where exactly that particular word appears. So you can also carry out the advanced search by giving advanced criteria such as contains, not contains, line starts with, line ends with, which this will be extremely useful if you want to keep the results to a very specified set of options. So I'm going to say this shirt should contain the word public as well as the word interface. And now I'm giving the search option. So Network Configuration Manager will show all the configurations which has the word public and the word interface. So by going into it, you can clearly see where those words appear. So yeah, that is all about configuration search. Let's move on to exclude criteria. Now, let me tell you what an exclude criteria is. So let's say in your environment, network devices are going to be having a timestamp in their configuration files. So for each minute, this timestamp is going to keep increasing. So this particular change should not be considered as a change, because if this is considered as a change, you will be getting notifications and backup will be triggered, and this will be a very annoying thing. So if you just want to exclude certain changes from being considered as a change, all you have to do is provide the exclude criteria. Now, let me show this to you in the UI. So go to settings, and under device management, you can see the exclude criteria option. So here you can see there are two examples. You can also add an exclude criteria from scratch by clicking on add option. So I'm choosing Cisco 300 series switch, and here the criteria is clock time. So when I give this exclude criteria option, even if the clock time keeps increasing, that will not be considered as a change by Network Configuration Manager. So it's quite simple, and let's move on to alarms. Alarms, as you can see, that this is specifically designed to help you get notified about what is going on in your network atmosphere. In Network Configuration Manager, you will get alarms for several operations such as failure or success of backup or scheduling or any important task which goes off. So these alarms will help you keep notified, and you can also filter alarms based on the status and severity. So for alarms, all you have to do is go to inventory. Here you can see alarms. So you can see there are different types of alarms for different tasks which have failed at particular time, and you can also filter this using severity or category. So it's quite simple, and alarms are very beneficial because you'll instantly get alarms when something goes off in your network environment. So let's move on to show commands. Show commands are especially useful when you want to troubleshoot. Also, it's very useful since you don't have to remember every command for every devices. So now let me show this to you. Go to settings, click on device management, and click on show commands. Here you can add a show command from scratch by giving the command and associating it to a vendor. Now let me just show you an example which is already there. So these are different commands such as show controller, show version, etc. You can also add custom commands, custom columns, and yeah, so just give on add and you can associate these commands. So I'm adding these commands to a particular vendor. All I have to do is click on the vendor name and click on save. So these commands will be associated to that particular vendor. So where can you find these commands? So for that, you have to go to the inventory, click on the device, and here you can see the show command option. So for that, you can give any kind of command and see what exactly is there. So if I want to see the hardware details of this device, all I have to do is show hardware, and here I can see the hardware details of this particular device. So that's all about show commands. Let us move on to reports. Reports are very useful since you can get a clear idea about exactly what has happened in a particular period, and you can also view trends. So some of the important reports are startup running conflict report, configuration change report, EOLAOS report, and etc. So where can you find them? So for reports, you have to go to the report section. Here you have the startup running conflict report. The startup running conflict report is very useful because get an idea about how many configurations are in conflict so that you can sync with the latest configuration on the startup configuration. So you can clearly see in detail about all the stats regarding the startup running conflict. You can also export this report into a PDF. So let us move on. We already saw compliance report. Network reports gives you detailed reports about hardware inventory, firmware inventory, the device inventory, network health status, and etc. So here you can see in detail about all the hardware details about this particular device. And then we have configuration reports, which gives detailed report about configuration changes, startup running conflict, configuration change trend, etc. EOL-US report is a very interesting report because it shows a report on devices that are nearing their end of service. Because if the device ends or reaches the end of service, it will cause a vulnerability if you have a device that has expired. So you can request an EOL-US update if any of the devices is reaching the EOL. So likewise, there are several reports. There are a lot of reports, and they will give you a clear understanding into your network infrastructure. So yeah, that's all about reports. Let's move on to the last part, which is the dynamic and the user-friendly UI. So Network Configuration Manager provides customizable dashboards, dynamic device groups, user-specific filters and columns, and a real-time UI. So this is very, very useful because here you can see all the devices which are listed in your inventory. And do you know that you can change these headings according to your requirements? For that, you have to click this icon and give whichever criteria you want to see and click on OK. So you can customize it, and if you want a phone number to be mentioned here, you can just click on it and give the phone number option. So for all the devices, the phone number will appear. See? So yeah, and if you log out of NCM and log in from some other geographical location, you can still retain the header. And so there is a customizable dashboard in NCM, which is extremely attractive and useful because depending on my requirements, I can customize it. Like I can drag it down, drag it up, etc. So here you can see that I'm dragging this here, and I want the backup summary to be in the front, so I'm dragging this here. And once it's done, all I have to do is save it. So other things are groups. Groups are also very, very useful because you can see all the different devices in a particular group. For example, let's say, so backup failure group where the number of devices which have undergone a backup failure will be present in this particular group. And these groups are dynamic in nature. For example, if the backup is a success in one of these groups, then that device will move from the backup failure group to a backup success group. So yeah, we've almost done, and that's all about groups. And we've come to the end of the second part of the training. So also I would like to say that you can integrate NCM with Op Manager, which is a network monitoring tool, to get a better idea of all the performance metrics in your device. And then you can also integrate with a bandwidth monitoring tool like a NetFlow analyzer for getting a details about the bandwidth usage in your network environment. So that's all about Network Configuration Manager. Now we got some interesting questions coming up, and our device expert, Mr. Arvind Lennon, will answer all the questions. So let me hand over this session to him, and he will be handing over you the question and answers about NCM. So, yes, so thanks for listening and thanks for your patience.
Good morning, everybody, and my name is Sarvandani. So I am with the Network Configuration Manager from last 7 years, and I am expertised in the product for product technical support and training and consultation. So in today's session, we have received some very valuable and fantastic questions that we will be discussing today. So I have taken only the top questions out of the lot, and I will be trying to answer all of them. In case if I'm missing something, we will be sending out emails of the questionnaires that we have received and answer for them as well. Okay. So let's jump into the first question. Is it possible to schedule compliance reports in Network Configuration Manager? Yes, we do have this option. In Network Configuration Manager, we have this schedule option where we can schedule the actions like compliance, configuration backup, PCI check, as well as we can do the Configlets execution and the report generation. So these are the options that we have that we can do using the schedule feature in Network Configuration Manager, and it can be done in a time interval of hourly, daily, weekly, monthly. So, okay, so let me just show you that in the product. So when you go into the product UI and go into settings and schedule, uh, you will have this option of schedule where you can add the schedule, and you will have this option of selecting the schedule type where you can select if your purpose is to check the compliance, you can select the compliance check, right? And you can select the devices, either devices by devices if you have to do it for only certain device, or you can do it by selecting the device group as well. So we will show you all the list of device group which you have created and which is by default available. And once this is done, you can just schedule the compliance check either hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly. Right? Let's jump on to the second question. How the draft upload works, and can we check the draft for compliance? Yes. So the main important thing when it comes to draft upload is that your devices that is added into the network configuration manager should use should use the protocol like telnet TFTP or SSH TFTP. Okay, so these are the options. This has to be done because only then we will be able to upload the draft into the device from the network configuration manager UI. So when it comes to, so let me just show you that in the product. So when you go here and under inventory, you will have this draft option. So the draft that you have already created, which is ready to get uploaded. Okay. So when you see that, so you will be having the content of the draft showing up here. So this is the draft that has been already created, and we need to upload this to the device, right? So for this to be uploaded properly, the device has to be added with the protocol telnet or telnet TFTP or SSH TFTP. So how you can set the protocol is you can see by clicking on the key icon. So when you go into the inventory and devices tab, you can just click on the key icon and it will show you what credential you are using here. So if it is telnet, you can just change it over to telnet telnet TFTP or SSH TFTP or SNMP TFTP. So these are the options which work over the TFTP. We can use it to upload the draft files, right? So once you have that option, you will be able to upload this draft, and even also you can check the compliance for the draft from here itself. So you can, when you click on the draft and click on when you see the draft and the content of the draft, you will have the various different options where you can check for the compliance as well by clicking on the options icon here on the right top and click on check for compliance. So this will give you which compliance rule that you want to or policy that you want to check this draft with, and once you select that, you will be able to we will be able to check for the compliance and show you the output whether that is compliant with the policy or not, and give you the result whether what are the rules are compliant and which rules not compliant. And when you click on the rule, you will be able to see the details of what that rule contains and what has to be done to satisfy that particular rule so that it can get compliant based on the configuration, right? Fine. So let's jump into the third question. How to increase the backup schedule time? So we have just seen this. So under schedule, when you go into the settings and when you click on the schedule option here, all schedule under device discovery. So you can, when you add The schedule, we have different options, which is hourly, daily, weekly, and monthly. You can always edit the existing schedule that you have added, and also you can set the schedule time when you want to actually execute the schedule. It can be for daily, hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly, and you can set at what time and which day and you want the schedule to execute and get the required details for you. Okay, and same thing we can do. Whenever the schedule runs, we can provide you the notifications. So for example, when you click on add, and if you select, if you see here, we have three checkboxes. Okay, for configuration backup, notify if there is a failure in the backing up of a device, exclude configuration difference from notification, and notify if there is a change in the configuration. Right. So for example, if you are selecting these three criteria, so these are basically the criteria for sending you out the notification. Okay, so when you select the notify if there is a failure in backing up of a device, so what will happen here is, if you select that, only if there is a failure of a backup of a particular device in that list of device in which is already been scheduled, only then you will get a notification. If there is no failure in the configuration backup of any of the device, you will not get any notification. So if everything is successful, you will not get any notification. Only if there's a failure, you will get a notification if you check this checkbox. The second is exclude configuration difference from notification. Uh, so if you want to exclude the configuration difference, so whenever backup, we get the new configuration files from the device, and we match the configuration from the for the current one with the previous one, and see what are the differences are there. And based on that, we attach the configuration difference in the notification itself. So if you select this, those notification alert will be the changes will be not attached as a report in the notification that will send you out and over the email. And the last one is notify if there is a change in the configuration. So only if there's a change in the configuration, when we execute this schedule for the configuration backup, and we'll check for the changes. If there is only change, you will get notified over the email. So the backup will happen only if there's a change, you will get notified. If there is no change in the configuration backup, you will not get notified. So make sure that you select the proper settings when you schedule a task, so that you can get proper notifications. Right. All right, so let's jump on to the fourth question. Does the communication between NCM and the devices is encrypted? Yes, so this is completely based on the type of protocol that you're using. Okay, so if you use, let's say if you're using SNMP, in case if you're using SNMP and using the SNMP v3 as a protocol, yes, then the communication will be encrypted. Uh, same thing for the SSH. So if you are using SSH credentials to connect to the device in network configuration manager, yes, the connection will be encrypted. But in case if you are using a non-encrypted protocol like Telnet or the SNMP v2, the connection will not be encrypted in those cases. Right? And most of the time, we suggest our customers to use CLI for like the SSH or Telnet credentials in the product for the devices, so that you can use all the features that are available in the product. All right. So let's jump on to the fifth question. So is it possible to update iOS version using SNMP? So it is one of the very good questions that we have received today. And yes, we can do that. So we have this option called Configlets, right? So in the Configlets, we can do any action. Any action can be done using the Configlet feature. So based on the requirement, we can create any kind of script. And you can execute it onto the device. So iOS Flash, when you go for the iOS Flash or Flash upload, so you can see here. So here, this is one of the configlet which actually is to delete a Flash file. Okay. So same way we can upload the Flash file. So only we need the command execution type. So how the commands are getting executed. Based on that, we can write and configure. So it's advanced criteria, because why we are using an advanced criteria, because uploading a Flash file or deleting a Flash file will have a prompt change, basically, right? So those kind of prompt changes and the command timeouts, like for example, when you are uploading a flash file onto an iOS device, the flash file upload will take certain seconds or even a minute, right? If it depends upon the size of the flash file, right? So those files take some time to actually get uploaded. So for those kind of commands, we can set timeouts using the advanced scripts. So advanced scripts is one of the important information or important feature that we have in the product, which allows us to execute any kind of activity or do any kind of activity onto the device based on the requirement, right? So let's quickly jump on to, yeah, so that's it. So that's all about the questions that we have received today. And I hope this session was useful to you and helpful to you. And in case if you have any doubts or any questions, you can always get back to us. So our support email address is ncm-support@manageengine.com. You can also look into our technical videos that we are putting up over the YouTube, and our the trainings, the training that we are doing here and the webinars. You can access it over the YouTube as well, and also you can connect to us over the forum. Right? Thank you, and hopefully you can join us next time. Let us know in case if you have any assistance, if you require any assistance, then we will be happy to help you. Thank you, and have a nice day.